I had mentioned in my last video that I was going to be making some changes to the filtration system here for the koi on the indoor pond. I have started to put some of that into place. It's going to take a few days to get it all kind of sorted out by the time I rearrange some of the plumbing, some of the fittings that are going to have to go into the barrels, etc. What you can see here is that I have taken the black barrel that was at the end that I pointed out in the other video. That's now disconnected and sitting on the floor. That will be moved out of the way to another area in the basement here so that I can do some modifications on the plumbing fittings on it. The unfortunate part for that is because I'm very limited in space down in my basement with respect to moving between the quarantine tank, which is here where Mystery is located, and the filter barrels that you see here. I'm going to have to drain the Oasi filter that's on Mystery's tank, move that to the far side to get it out of the way, and then lift that barrel up over the quarantine tank and down into my working area. And so I'm hoping to get that done in just a little bit. And what I have done is I have modified just briefly here the plumbing on the fittings that were originally feeding that barrel. So this is the valve that was feeding the blue one and still is. This valve here was feeding the black barrel. It's now connected to a piece of flex hose. That's only a temporary fitting. That will, or the hose will be changed in due course once I get everything set up and functioning again. And what I have done, and I did mention again in that video, was I was going to be adding a small tower shower to the pond here, and that is the piece there. I've still got to do a bit of fittings there for the plumbing aspect of it. The hose that I just pointed out again, the flex hose, which is the one you see in my hand here, it's going to be feeding the spray bar, which will be going into the top of the filter up through this hose. The filter will then have the water go through it, out the two pipes here and back into the pond. My hope is that in addition to providing some extra filtration on the pond, what that will do as well is agitate this area down here a bit more where the sturgeon are housed, give them a bit more current to swim around, and make the overall pond a little more inviting for the koi. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get the filter, the shower tower here, connected to that tubing so that I can get it going with a test run on it to see how that works. Hopefully no leaks. I think everything is good. Those of you who have watched my earlier videos when I was showing the outdoor pond might recognize this tower. This is actually part of the one that was outside, which was connected to my upflow filters. I have basically cut it in half. Obviously I couldn't fit the full thing in here. You can see there's not a lot of space between that and the ceiling, only about a foot as it is. So it's been cut in half, and the outlets, they're the 2-inch outlets, as I said, will be feeding this pond. What I've also done in order to get additional water flow through because of the shower is I've swapped out the pump that was on the pond, and I know you can't see it, it's kind of down the bottom of this black pipe here. The pump that had been running on the pond was a 2,400 gallon an hour pump. What I have done is taken the pump that was being used on the pond outside, which was a 40 to 180 gallon an hour pump, and put that in here. So I've in essence doubled the water flow going through the filtration system. And again, that can be controlled by the ball valves that you may have seen just a moment ago. So I'm going to, as I said, get the spray bar in there, hook that hose up to it, and give it a test run, and I will let you see how that's going. If everything looks good, then I'll put the media in the filter, get things running, and get that other barrel moved out of the way. So on that note, I'm just going to end this little segment of the video here. I'll get that spray bar in place and be ready for a test run. So I'll be back with you very shortly. Alright, now I have connected the spray bar to the flex hose. You can see the hose here, and it runs up to the spray bar, which is located at the top of the tower. The way the fitting is set up on the hose here, as I said previously, it is only temporary. I'm going to be putting a different hose on here. This is an 1.25" hose. I'm going to be putting an 1.5" on here to get a bit better flow. So the fitting to the spray bar, I have an adjustable fitting on there. I can take it off and put in the proper size, so that's not going to be an issue. So I'm going to get the pump running now, just so you can see a quick idea of how the water is going to come out of the shower. Now it will be a little bit loud, so I'm going to, hopefully you'll be able to hear me as I speak with regard to that. So I'm just going to plug that in now, so you can bear with me for a moment, and we'll show you how things are looking. Okay, the pump is back on. You can probably hear the water going into the shower. There is no media in there yet. That will come afterwards. And you can see I have a very good flow coming there now out of the two outlets. One is directed towards the side of the pond, the other one pretty much straight down. They are solvent weld fittings. I have not glued those in place yet. I'm probably going to leave them so that I can adjust things as I kind of tweak the system and go around with it. So that's kind of what my goal is for that. You can see the water coming in over here. I can increase that volume a little bit by opening up the valve, which will then restrict a little bit of flow coming through the tower. But I think that's going to make a big difference. So I'm going to let it run for a little while. I will come down and check for leaks in a few minutes. And then if everything is good, I will put the media in and move on with getting that black barrel out of the way and start making the plumbing adjustments that I need to it. I did check the barrel here earlier, and before I set everything up, I had done a coating of the Flex Seal on the inside, just to make sure it was sealed. The platform that it is sitting on, which is right here, it's covered with a bit of pond liner, and it is on a slight slope towards the pond, so that if there is a drip or anything coming from this, it should go directly into the pond. Now I have just noticed a drip from this fitting here, but again, it is not glued into place, so I'm not too concerned about that. I can sort of tighten that up a little bit afterwards. But the flow, as you can see, is very good, and I will, as I say, get the media in there a little bit later on today if everything is looking good. It's just after 12 noon here at my place, so I'm going to go and grab a bite of lunch while this runs, and then I'll come down and see how things are doing, and if all goes well, then I will, as I said, move the filter on the quarantine tank there so I can get that black barrel out and start making some modifications to the plumbing on it. And again, that's going to take a little bit of time. It's not excessive by any means, but because I'm going to be putting in some new fittings, I want to make sure they're all properly sealed and so on, to avoid potential leaks going forward. So on that note, I'm just going to put the camera down here, and I will get things checked out in a little bit once I've had a bite of lunch, and we'll come down and see how everybody is faring down here in the pond. So far they seem to be doing well. I know that's a bit of a change from a water flow perspective for them, but they will adjust to that, I'm sure, very quickly. And I know that the sturgeon will very much appreciate the added oxygen that this is putting into the water, even though I do have the large air stone functioning over there. So on that note, I'm going to put the camera down. I will touch base with you in a little while when I put the media in, and let you know how things are coming along. It's been about 45 minutes since I first tested out the shower to see how things are going to work. There is a very, very minor leak, or it appears to be a leak, possibly from one of the outlet pipes. It could just be a little bit of water that splashed down when I was hooking things up. Not causing any concern at this point. I have put the media in there, and it's full up to just below the top of the shower itself. So the media is up to approximately this line. You can just kind of see from the top there. And we'll have to see if that makes a difference. It's a variety of different media that's in there, just to see how that's going to work out, if it's going to make a difference on the pond at all. Certainly not going to hurt having it up there. So I'll keep an eye on it for the next few days and see how that goes. As I said, the outlet pipes here have not been glued into place. I may need to move them a little bit depending on splashing and that type of thing. And that's why they're not glued. I can just kind of alternate or turn them if I need to do that. So I'm going to leave that running for now. We'll see how everything goes. And hopefully it's going to be okay. The one kind of downside of the size of the shower here is when I put the media in order to reach up there and get it in, I had to use the ladder here because I can't reach over top to get the media in. And if I have to take that out, again, that won't be a big issue because I can quite literally move the tower itself off of the platform onto the ground to take the media out. And with the outlets not being glued in place, they are easily movable, so it's not going to cause any issues with that there. So that said, I'm going to let that run, let the fish do their thing for now. And next step is to move the filter on Mystery's tank. I'm going to drain that. I'll do a quick sort of cleaning cycle on it, drain it so that I can move it, and I get that barrel over here out of the way. And as I'm getting ready, or once I am ready, I should say, to install any new plumbing fittings or anything like that, I will certainly do a quick little update and keep you apprised as to what's going on. And for those of you who are wondering, now that I've taken the shower off the outdoor pond and kind of cut it in half to fit down in here, what I am going to be doing over the next few months is pulling together all the components to make a DIY backy shower, and that will be installed outside where the tower was originally to be connected to the upflow filters, and then from there it will return through the shower. From the shower it's going to be piped back into the pond itself. So that will follow in the next few months. As I said, I'll be getting the components together, starting to do fittings, etc. in the house here over the winter months, and then once we have nice weather, I'll be able to get things installed back outside. So I'm going to leave it at that point at the moment. As I said, I'm going to move the Mystery's filter after I do a cleaning, and then get that barrel out of the way and start making some progress on that, hopefully very soon. And as I said, I will add to the video as I get going along that. So I will be. And just a quick shot here to show you what I mean about getting the barrel out from the spot that it was in. Again, you can see the blue barrels there. The filter on Mystery's tank has been moved over right against the wall, and I've lifted this barrel up on top of the support for the other filter. So I'm going to drag it over here out of the way now, and then I'll get it down on the floor. I can finish getting it kind of rinsed out and start working on the changes for it. But as I said, I am very limited in space down here. The distance between Mystery's tank, which is here, and this barrel is approximately 12 inches. So it's a bit of a squeeze, even for me. I'm not the biggest person by any means, and I'm certainly not the smallest person, but it's still a bit of a squeeze to get through there. So with that, I'm going to crack on and get that moved, get Mystery's filter up and running again. And as I said, I will bring you some updates on the progression as I get the plumbing pieces all sorted on the new configuration. Just a quick update on the filter modifications I'm doing for the indoor filters. I have started to get the plumbing sorted out, positioning, etc. on the barrels that are going to be forming the main body of the filtration system, and I will show you that a little bit later here in the video. But I just wanted to let you see a few of the bits and pieces that I have picked up in the past couple of days. Some I had to order online, such as these 1.5" slide valves or gate valves. What I've also done is, just to be on the safe side, because we all know these can leak, these are 4 new seals. So if I do get a leakage, I can swap out the seals on these, because that's generally what goes first. Usually what I do as well, and I will show you that on the barrels also, is rather than using tank connectors or bulkheads, I use what they call uniseals. These are 1.5" ones, which are going to be used for the waste lines on the barrels. These are 2" ones that will be used on the Baki shower that I'm hoping to build for the outdoor pond. So they've all come from the same company. And then the other fittings that you see here, miscellaneous, a range of fittings, because I'm not sure exactly what the plumbing for the drain lines are going to look like. It's going to depend on how the barrels actually line up when I get them on the stand next to the tank. So I got some 1.5" elbows, 90-degree elbows, some 45-degree elbows, 1.5" as well, some 1.5" male and female adapters, and a reducer. These are 2" elbows, which will potentially be used on the tower shower that I showed previously in the video. This is a flap check valve that will be going in the line from the pump to the filters to prevent any backflow water, because they are sort of elevated in relation to where the pump is. These are connectors that will be used to join the barrels together, and these are fittings that will be going in the barrels. These are the ones actually that will be utilizing these connectors here to join them together, so I can join the barrels together. And I will show you all that as things progress. So it's been a few days to kind of collect everything. I've had to go to 2 or 3 different stores to get all the bits and pieces that I need. As I said, some of the ones, the valves, the fittings, etc. over there, those had to be shipped to me, which arrived just yesterday. And I'm probably not going to need all these various fittings. So the store that I get them from, or the stores, they're not too far away. I can take pieces back if I don't need them. Some of them I will hang on to as spares for future use should the need arise. These are the end caps, which will be going on to cap off some of the existing drain lines on the barrels, as well as to cap off the end of the sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Oh, sorry, to cap off the end of the screens, which will be in the barrels themselves, to prevent the media from getting through into my waste chamber. So with that said, I'm going to put the camera down now and head down into the basement to my work area. I'll show you once I'm down there what I've already done with the barrels, and then as things progress, I will, utilizing these various components that you see here, I will certainly add additional pieces to the video. So on that note, I'm going to just kind of end it here at the moment and get down and get to work, and hopefully in the next 2 or 3 days I will have everything together, sealed up the way it is supposed to be, and have the new filtration up and running. So thanks again for hanging in there and watching, and I'll get back with another segment of the video very soon. As I mentioned earlier in the video, this is the uniseal. This is one of the 3" uniseals, and I have drilled the hole here in the side of this black barrel. This is actually a 4" hole, which is required to fit the uniseal inside. So the uniseal simply slides in there, and when the pipe goes in, you push the pipe through here, it causes the uniseal to expand ever so slightly, sealing it against the side of the barrel or whatever you're putting it into. You can see a little bit of movement there now when I do this, but once the pipe is in place, that will prevent that movement. And I've used uniseals on a number of other barrels and filters previously. They work really, really well. They're actually quite inexpensive compared to some of the other pond-related fittings that you can purchase, which is another reason that I like them. So what I'm going to do now is I will put one of the pipe pieces in there that I had shown you a little bit earlier, one of the white ones. I'll get that in place, and then I will show you how that looks once it's in there. I'm going to put the camera down. It does take a little bit of pressure to get it through there, and there might be a few choice words on my part. So to avoid that, I'll just stop the recording here and pick it up again once the pipe fitting is in place. Alright, I have one of the fittings now in place. I have one more to do on the barrel over here. You can just see the uniseal in the hole there. I'm going to do that one next. This one is now securely in place, providing a watertight seal against the barrel. It does take some effort to kind of push it in there, so it is a little bit awkward at times. And what I didn't mention earlier that I will mention to you now is prior to putting the fitting in the uniseal, you need to make sure the fitting or the pipe, whatever you're putting through, has a chamfer on it, just to help guide the fitting into the uniseal. And you also need to lubricate both the fitting and the uniseal, just to make it a bit easier to get that piece in place. Now, what I've used in the past for that lubricant is what they call a plumber's lube. It is a special kind of cream that provides that lubrication. I also use it when I'm greasing up the ball valves or anything like that I have on the pond. I've never had any issues as far as the fish health are concerned with it. It lubricates the ball valves. If you get a sticky one, it makes them much easier to turn, and it stays in place for a long, long time. I know I have somewhere, or some kicking around the house here somewhere, but I just couldn't find it prior to doing this. So what I opted to do instead, which I've also done in the past, is just use a little bit of regular olive oil. And I don't know if you'll be able to see that, just a little bit here in the bottom of this container. What you do is you lubricate the chamfered edge of the fitting, you lubricate the internal ring of the uniseal. So on this new one here, so that would be the part in here that gets lubricated. Then the fitting itself gets lubricated. And then when you push the fitting in, it is strictly a friction fit, but again, because it does push it against the side of the hole, it provides a watertight seal. And the reason I'm using this fitting here is a standard 4-inch rubber connector or rubber boot will fit over top of this. This pipe is actually, it's a drain or a waste pipe. It's a little bit thinner than a standard kind of ABS pipe. This is a PVC one, and the outer dimensions are slightly smaller than a 3-inch ABS. So the fitting will fit right on top of here, the rubber boot. As you can see, I've got one on over here on another fitting. That fits nicely on top of here, so that will be used to join this barrel and this one here together. And because it is the PVC one, and I have some PVC pipe and some PVC fittings that I've already used, they will fit perfectly into here to give on the inside, to give me the strainer that will be used to prevent any media from going between the barrels. So there's going to be the one barrel which is currently running on the pond now has K+ media in it. That media is going to be put into this barrel. So the barrel that's there will be moved to the end of the rack where it's going to go. That will be the main sort of source barrel. The K1 and K3 that I've got in my moving bed will be going into that barrel as a mechanical filter. The K+ that's currently in the barrel on the pond is going to be going into this one as a sort of mechanical / polishing filter. And then some more K+ is going to be going into this barrel, which will become the moving bed filter. And the moving bed barrel, this one here, as I said, is a 55-gallon barrel, and the one that's currently on the pond is a 35-gallon barrel. So this will be almost doubling the size of the moving bed, which will make a huge difference to the bioload, or at least the biological activity for the pond. So at that point, what I'm going to do, as I said, is I've got the one fitting in place, so I'm well on the way to getting things done here. Once I have this one in, and the drain line in it, that's the existing line, which is probably going to have to be capped, and a new line put in just based on the placement of these. This one will now have the fitting put into it. I have already capped the drain line down there, and we'll be putting a new one in, and I'm going to be hard plumbing the drain together, barrel to barrel to barrel, into my sump barrel for drainage purposes during cleaning, etc. So on that note, I'm just going to put the camera down again. I'm going to get working on putting the chamfer on the next fitting to go in the blue barrel here, and I'll get that in place, and then I'll show you once that is done. I have installed the fitting now and the uniseal into the blue barrel, and you can see that right here. And again, it comes out there on this side, the interior of the barrel. That's where the pipe that's going to feed the water into the moving bed, and it will be, of course, built in such a way that none of the media can backflow into the black barrel. This pipe here, which is a 4-inch pipe, was one that was already existing on this barrel when I had it on the outdoor pond a couple of years ago. So I've left that in place. This is going to be the return from the barrel into the indoor pond. And what will happen as part of the setup, of course, is the two fittings will be brought together, as you see here, with one of the rubber boots that I showed you earlier. So that's going to go around to hold these two together. The filter that is here, the barrel that is here, this will be the one that's going to be filled with the K+ media as a polishing filter. The one which is going to go on this side of the filter over here, that's currently running on the pond with K+ in it, that's going to be the K1, K3 media static filter. The K+ is going to go into this one, which is going to be a static filter as well. And then the larger blue barrel here is going to be the moving bed, which will have K+ in it as the media. So the water will flow from barrel number 1, which is going to be over here, through the static K1 media. In here, it'll be directed down to the bottom of the barrel, down there. It will upflow then through the K+ media, go through the pipe here, through this fitting, into this barrel, again be directed downward into the moving bed filter, and then the water, as it passes through that filter, or the media, will come out here and into the pond. Next step I have to do is I need to put a cap on the drain line. I'll just kind of show you that line there. That was an existing one, which is in the wrong place now for the way I'm going to set things up. So I've got to cap that off. I've already capped off the one on the blue barrel, so I'm going to do that momentarily. I'll get that trimmed and capped off, and then I just have to kind of work out positioning. My idea is that rather than having independent drain hoses from all three barrels, they will all be connected together. So the drain on this one, rather than being at the front of the barrel, and again it's because I have very limited space down here, my pond, or my basement area where the pond is, it will be relocated somewhere over here on the side so I can still access it, but it will be out of the way. The same with the one on this barrel. It will be moved around probably over to this side, because that's going to be sort of close to where the sump barrel is going to be. There will then be a line, an 1.5-inch line, which will run behind these barrels, so in between the barrels and the indoor pond. It'll come across here, connect via T and elbows, etc., to the black barrel here. Will then continue along, come around here where the fitting on this one will connect to that, and so that'll be over here somewhere. and then that in turn will drain into the sump barrel. Each one will have its own valve on there that I showed you previously, the 1.5-inch slide valves, so I will be able to operate and clean independently without fear of kind of contaminating the other barrels or without losing excess water. So that's my next step, is to cap off the black barrel here, drain line, relocate or basically install a new line into it, and then install a new drain line into the blue barrel here, and then start working on sort of what pieces I'm going to need to connect these all together. And I won't be able to actually sort of get exact measurements until these are in place over the stand right next to the pond where they are going to go. So I'm going to be working on that today. Hopefully I'll get most of it done. If not, it'll be tomorrow. I should be able to finish it up. The shower that I put in the other day, my tower shower, which I'm just going to come out here again, so bear with me for a second. So that's it here. Is running well. I just have some temporary fittings on there now, the elbows, to get the water coming down into the pond. And so that's going to be the filter that is running while I'm reconfiguring the barrels. And the barrel here, which has the moving bed media in it, I'm going to drain it, sit it down here on the floor, fill it back up with pond water, put the air stone in there again, just to keep the bacteria alive for a day or so while I get everything reconfigured. This is the sump barrel and my pump barrel that I spoke of. So the 3 barrels that are in place, or will be in place, will be drained via some pipe coming along here, along the back of the barrels, in between the pond and the barrels. It will come along and then drain directly into the sump here, which then gets down into a basement drain for filter cleaning. So still some work to do. It's coming along. I think I've got all the bits and pieces I'm going to need. I did pick up another length of the pipe work yesterday. So this is 1.5 inches. It's a 12-foot length. So it'll be more than I'm going to need. But the pieces that I did have here are older pipe, and when I'm cutting them, I'm getting a little bit of a rough edge. They're not cutting as neatly as I would like. And again, they've been in use quite a time, so I'll keep some of it as a bit of a spare, but anything that fittings in that I have previously used that are definitely not salvageable will be put to waste. Those fittings and piping that I can use, I will definitely keep. And this barrel here, the blue one, which is there, this valve is going to be replaced with one of the new valves, but the fittings that are on the 2 pieces here will be able to direct the line into the waste line that's going to come across the back there. So things are coming in place, at least that's what I'm kind of anticipating. As I said, I'm going to continue working on this today and tomorrow if need be, and hopefully we'll have everything up and running very, very soon, and I will show you once it's all hooked up and functioning the way it's supposed to go, and fingers crossed that I've done the right thing. I will follow up with another piece to the video shortly. I'm pleased to say that I finally finished the modifications to the filtration system for the indoor pond. You can see here I have my tower shower functioning. That is one of the outlets you can see there. I do have to modify it slightly because it's splashing on the surround of the pond, as you can see. None of those fittings have been glued into place, so it's an easy adjustment. And then the other one is going directly down into the water itself, so no splashing there. And over here I have the barrels, and I'll show you how that's set up in a moment. This line here is the return from the moving bed filter, and it's going directly into the pond there, as you can see. And I'm just going to go around to the other side of the barrels just to give you an idea of what I've done down here. And just bear with me for a second. Due to the placement of the barrels in relation to the pond, I do have to climb up on a stool to kind of see what's going on there. So on that side, and I do apologize for the lighting, this is the static bed filter, actually one of two. This is primarily K1 and some K3 media thrown or put together in that one. This is the water line coming from the pump. So this valve here feeds this blue hose, which then goes down to the shower. The other line here, and this valve, is feeding the first barrel we just looked at a moment ago. The water from there comes through this pipe here, comes into here, and then this pipe, my fingers are kind of touching there, goes directly to the bottom of the barrel, give or take an inch or so that all the water coming in has to come upwards like an upflow through the media. And I will be adding some more media in here. I know it looks a little sparse at the moment, but I do have another about another 40 liters of K+, so I'm going to be adding some more here shortly. The water, once it's come through that media, goes through this pipe here, through there as you can see, and into the moving bed filter. And again, the pipe here, this one goes right to the bottom of the barrel itself, and then the water just is agitated, of course, through this. So the sort of cleaner water, if you will, is then coming through the pipe here, back into that white pipe that I showed you a moment ago. So it seems to be working well. I just got them up and running earlier today. It took me about 3 days in total, so almost 18 hours or so, I guess, to get everything done, to disassemble the system that was here, to get everything hooked up. And I'll just show you very briefly here. What I have done is, this is a slide valve that's hard plumbed into the line there. So that one feeds from the first barrel here into my sump barrel, and I'll show you that in a moment. Another slide valve down here for the second barrel. And again, if you just bear with me while I sort of climb down from my perch there. This is the third one. And they're all connected to the same line, which comes out here. This is the sump barrel. So when I open any of these and when I'm going to do a cleaning, the water will flow from whichever one happens to be into the barrel here, and then the sump pump is connected into the drain in the basement here. Now I did put this pipe on here, this hose. They are brand new valves. I'm sure they're going to work perfectly fine, but any of you who have used slide valves in the past do know that they have a tendency to drip ever so slightly from time to time. So I thought it easier just to have like a safety line here, so if there is a drip at all, you know, the water at most kind of will gradually make its way up the pipe here, and then just sort of trickle back into the pond, because I don't leave the sump pump plugged in all the time. It's only when I'm actually using the pump that I will have it plugged in. So I'm going to keep fingers crossed that this will make a difference to the water. It was a little awkward getting the positioning done and getting all the plumbing and everything in place, and I did have to go out a couple of times, pick up a couple of new plumbing fixtures that I hadn't picked up originally due to a slight change in design as things went on. But it does seem to be working well. The water is a little bit murky. As I said, the filter was off for a couple of days to allow for me to do all the modifications I had to make, and I've just got it going again now. During that period that the filters were turned off, I did do a couple of water changes in here, and the aeration, as you can see coming up there, that was running kind of full tilt as well, so the fish were fine. I did hold off on the food for a couple of days as well, just to minimize any buildup of ammonia, etc. in the pond. So fish are doing very well, and as I said, the shower is working well, or certainly hope that it's making a difference. And again, once I've had an opportunity to do a couple of changes with respect to the plumbing, just have to modify a couple fittings to direct the water into the tank here so it's not splashing the same, and I will get on that in the next day or so once I go out and pick up a couple more elbows that I need to get that done. So on that note, I'm going to end this segment of the video based on the plumbing changes and the filtration changes that I've made down here, and I will be taking the camera outside in a few moments just to give you an idea, especially those of you that are in the UK and other parts of Europe that don't get the sort of weather which we get here, just to give you an idea what the outdoor pond looks like at the moment. So I will stop things here, and we'll pick it up once I get outside with the camera. Just a little bit to end off the video here, not related exactly to the filters that we were looking at a few moments ago, but this is the pond. As you can see, completely covered in a solid sheet of ice. Not a lot of snow at the moment, but extremely cold, and the ice is solid enough you could walk on. So for my subscribers and friends in the UK, consider yourself very lucky that you have that much nicer weather enabling you to get outside, do some things around the pond, and enjoy the koi. As we have another 2 or 3 months at least of this, with much more snow and everything to come over the next few weeks. So thank you all again for watching. Take care, stay warm. If you haven't already done so, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. And remember, if you're like me, koi keeping is not just a hobby, it's an obsession.